brilliant, and the teacher has somehow stepped into, letting herself or himself dominate in that kind of reading. And I think it's tough, the balance, and it's hard to do because we haven't watched each other doing it. But now there's more to watch and more to learn from.
Lisa, can I mention the CLP website, the poetry website? We watched Valerie Bloom perform her work. And I think sometimes when you watch authors perform their work, whereas you talked about that meaning, they know the meaning behind the words that they've written on the page. Yeah. I just always think of Valerie Bloom and the way that she just expresses the meaning of her words and how that comes through in the way that she, and as you said, it's not a performance. It is just about her knowing what she's written about and the impact that she wants to have on the audience. And therefore, when she's talking, that really shines through. So, yeah, it's really important that it's not just the performance. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's something about intention, isn't it? It's intention without being too hammy, I suppose. And it's what's the intention of the text. But really interesting. Thank you. The next question is, given the limited time teachers have, is it better that a teacher reads one novel across the term or a series of short books? Who wants to get us started? Matthew.
I think it is about a balance between both. I think it's great to expose children to like lots of different extracts. But I think it's important, if you're going to read an extract of a book or a blurb of a book, to have that book either in your classroom, in your library. So the child thinks, oh, that sounds great, I want to have a read of that. They can actually go and then read the entire book. I hate to like get a child really excited about a book and say, oh, I don't have that, sorry. You have to go and find it yourselves. I think it's important to have, if you are going to read short bits of books, have them available if they want to then go and pick it up themselves and carry on with the book.
Okay, balance. Anyone else on that one?
I'd go for balance too, sorry.
Balance, yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, what are you mentioning, Hayley? Time. We have to make time. We make time. Forget maths. I said no. I always make.
Sonia says, throw everything out the window. It's just about reading for pleasure.
But we've got to. I think, again, as senior leaders, we've got to not make teachers feel like this is something that we shouldn't be doing. Read both, as Matthew said. Read short novels, long novels, poetry. Stop in the middle of teaching and just read. Make the time, because we know the benefits. So I just don't see this as a time issue. I see it as a quality issue, and I think we need to make the time to do that.
I think there are always liminal spaces too, aren't they? Sorry, Joe, were you pitching in? I apologise.
So just to say, there was a school I visited in West London a couple of years back that had a kind of compulsory reading 10 minutes at the end of the day, and everyone always had a book on them, and it was kind of magical. Like when I first walked in, I was kind of given a book. I was like, do you have a book on you? Because the whole school reads. And I thought, okay, really? And then I think it was like 10 to 3. Everything went silent. The kids were happily taking their books out because they knew they had this protected 10 minutes to just sit and read. Everything stopped. The whole school stopped. Books came out. And if you were a visitor, you had to do it. But the energy of the place was so lovely that it's something you wanted to do. And I've only seen that in that one particular school, and I just thought that was amazing. And that was someone like you were saying, Sonia, who, yeah, that was a school librarian who had kind of implemented this school-wide thing and protected that time, that reading time, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly one of the 4 strands of our argument around pedagogy, Joe, that time to read. Children may not take that time at home. They may not be able to take the book home. 10% of our young people, according to the NLT, 9.4% don't have a book at home anyway. So reading to myself at home is going to be harder in those contexts, clearly. And so, having some time to read in school, but a book that I chose, you immediately said, have you got a book you chose? And it's that volitional aspect that makes the difference. But I want to go back to Sonia's comment about, making the time. We've got the time, and in a way we have, and in a way we haven't. But there are always little bits, aren't there? I always think, you're clearing up for PE, so everybody's changing, although, putting their stuff in, whatever. Of course, in bubbles, this may all be rather different now, and I'm only speaking as best I can for it. But, in those little moments when clearing up the art table, can I read 3 poems then? It's going to take us 5 minutes to clear up, so I could read the next bit of the novel, or I could just read a bunch of poems, or not just, but you know, that's poetry today. Tomorrow it might be picture fiction, and then Wednesdays and Fridays we always have the novel. So you can kind of mix and match both the longer piece and the windows of shorter picture fiction right through to the end of Key Stage 2 too, so that we really get our hands and ears tuned into the language.
Brilliant, thank you, Teresa. So the next question. As the Teachers Reading Challenge is a pilot, what can we expect from the site next year? Well, I can answer that one. We are looking to develop a teacher's book sorter, which is going to be a brand new function and a brand new tool on the site. So this year, teachers can access the children's book sorter. It's actually part of our summer reading challenge. We have the children's book sorter on that site, and we've actually brought it and duplicated it and brought it over to the Teachers Reading Challenge site as well. On the children's book sorter, there's 1.3 million books that have been logged and reviewed by children for children. So it's an amazing asset and a resource for teachers to use. But this year we realised that teachers were leaving a lot of reviews. They're logging books, leaving reviews, which is fantastic. Please keep doing it. But we didn't have anywhere to put them. There was too many. I think we're over 2,000 now, so there was just too many to get on the site. So what we've done is created a featured review page. There is a find a read page. There's lots of spaces where you can chat about books, leave your reviews, talk about books, and find book lists and book recommendations. But we know how valuable a teacher's book sorter would be. So you would have your children's book sorter, and then you'll be able to access all of these reviews and books that have been logged by teachers for teachers. So hopefully, fingers crossed, next year there will be that new book sorter as part of the challenge, which we really are excited about. So that's the answer to that one. Okay, and another question that's kind of COVID related and very much related to the pandemic and our times. So do the panel have recommendations for supporting readers who may have to remain at home for intermittent periods this year due to the pandemic? So do you have any kind of advice or recommendation for supporting readers who are having to stay at home?
Well, can I just kick off with two obvious things, and that is about access. These books need to be ready to be able to be borrowed, to be chosen to be borrowed, and then take home. I mean, back in March, there were loads and loads of schools, John Biddle's in Great Yarmouth and many others who are going, the library's empty, all the books have gone, the children have chosen, and now there's nothing left. And in a sense, that was honouring the children's choices to take their text home. Now, this may happen in a much more fragmented manner now with Year 5 going home or whatever, we don't know. But if that does happen, then perhaps we need, and many schools now are doing year group libraries rather than the whole central library, breaking them down to year groups. And maybe some of that year group library needs to be put in a place where easy access and borrowing can happen so that they're clean and ready to go home. Because access to those books with few days to go before we all have to go home, whatever it may happen quickly, is I think really crucial. They need the books. Yeah, and you can go online and listen to other people, but if you haven't got your own book in your own hands, that's what I think children really need. But others will add, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'd agree with that. I think, again, just those opportunities for children to have access to texts that they're familiar with, as well as new texts very quickly. So again, it just requires organisation and thought. One of the things that we've done with our library, and I'm not saying everyone can do this, is just to do that termly sort, where you can pick out some texts for children to choose, that you've got multiple copies of maybe, magazines, making sure that those don't just stay in school or they're not thrown away after use, piling those up ready. So just being ready and organised in terms of boxes. What we're doing is if books go home, we're quarantining them for 48 hours, and then children are able to choose them again. So it's just thinking about your processes and systems that allow children to still choose and take books home, but still be safe as they do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, as Sonia said before about planning, it's really important to keep RFP on the agenda. I think there's so much going on, and we're trying to keep children academically on track, but I think we need to keep reading for pleasure really at the forefront of what we're doing. If there ever was a time for reading for pleasure, surely it is at the moment. So just making sure we're keeping that ticking over alongside all the other bits we're trying to do as well.
And make sure that parents and their families, know that they can, sign up to get their library membership. They can get their library card. There's click and, order and collect. There's ebooks and digital. So it's not forgetting that, the public libraries are there to support reading for pleasure as well, and making sure that kind of families know that they can access free books that way as well, which I think is really important. So final question. Are you all ready? Drum roll. Do you have a favourite children's book? So I think this goes to everyone. I want to, if you've got your book, let's see it. And tell us what it is. We'd like to know the author and the book title, and just why. Why is it your favourite book? What do you like about it? Okay, should we start with Teresa? Kick us off.
Okay, I went through about 9 here. I did have what you had earlier. Matthew, I had to put it down then, you might be choosing it. The Runaways by Ulf Stark, illustrated by Kitty Crowther. It just moved me, and I love books that move me. And if I just read you the subtext, as it were, or the coda at the top of on the front cover. Grandpa didn't like hospital, so together we made a plan. And there's the picture of Grandpa and the little boy on, and it's one of those books that you just want to. I've got it in hardback, couldn't give it away, must keep it. I've read it about 3 times. Simon Smith recommended it to me on Twitter, back to Twitter again for good recommendations. Didn't know whether I like it, bought it, love it. It's not the best book that I've ever read, it's the book that I love most at the moment, and I hang on to it.
Oh, that's lovely, Teresa, thank you. Sonia, what have you got?
Got this one, A Little Bit Different, it's called.
Brilliant.
By Claire Alexander, and it's a new book for me, but as I read it, I just instantly fell in love with it. And it's about these characters called the Ploofers, and they all say ploof, and they have some little smoke bubbles come out of the table. But this one on the front, his thing that comes out is multicolored. So the rest of them say that he's different, and they kind of shun him, and they force him to go away. But he meets another character who actually says to him, wow, your ploof is multicolored and I love it. And then the others realize that actually his difference is fantastic. And they all then are able to ploof their colors out as well. So it's a beautiful book.
Who's it by? Who's it by? I can't see.
Claire Alexander.
Lovely. Oh, that's a brilliant one, Sonia.
Lovely.
Oh, thank you. And Matthew, what have you got?
I've actually cheated, sorry. I've got 2, but they're...
Oh, you can have 2, that's fine.
So Look Up and Clean Up, written by Nathan Byron and illustrated by Dapo Aladola. I just absolutely love the pictures in them. They're amazing. This one, the first one, Look Up, won the Waterstones Children's Book Award, and it's just kind of blown up everywhere, but it's amazing to see. And this is the second one that's been released recently. And they're just great to read aloud, great for Key Stage 1. Clean Up's got a really great eco theme, which is really lovely. And yeah, as I say, the pictures are amazing. So definitely recommend. Sorry for cheating. 50.
Brilliant. Thanks, Matt. And Joe, how about you?
I'm glad you cheated, Matt. I'm going to cheat too. Because my first one is slightly left field. The Mysteries of Harris Burdick. And this is a huge portfolio version. Because it's mainly pictures, but you have a title and a tiny little bit of text for each picture, which just makes your imagination kind of go wild. So this one, if you can see that, the title is Under the Rug, and the little bit of text you're given is 2 weeks past and it happened again, which is just such a brilliant starting point for creating stories and writing your own stories. And my second choice for Key Stage 3 is Run Rebel by Manjeet Mann, which is a brilliant verse novel, extremely emotive. I'm just going to read you the sort of tagline at the back. I am restless, my feet need to fly. So they're my 2 for today.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Joe. So Joe, actually, while we're with you, let's carry on. Let's carry on reading. So I'm going to hand over to Joe, who's going to be doing a live reading for us. So Joe, remind us what you're reading and then carry on. It's over to you.
So thank you. I'm going to read a couple of poems from The Girl Who Became a Tree, which is a story told in poem. So it's in a space between a poetry collection and a verse novel. It's about a young girl called Daphne who finds a hole in her library and goes through that hole, finds herself in a deep, dark forest where a creature wishes to turn her into a tree. All this is happening in the context of her dealing with the recent death of her tree surgeon father. So I'm going to give you a little selection. The librarian. I never really chat to him. I never really chat to anyone anymore. Teacher says you need to speak up, says if you need to talk to someone, I'm here, but I don't need to talk to anyone. I don't need to talk. The librarian always tries to talk. The librarian sets aside horror books for me. Ghost Stories by M.R. James. Twisted Beings by H.P. Lovecraft. Hauntings by Shirley Jackson. The librarian noticed what I read. The librarian got me talking. The librarian hands me a book of Greek myths, tells me if I like horror, you'll love these. It's a book I don't want. Tales of transformations and angry gods. The same copy I'd read with my dad years ago. I flip to Apollo, a cantankerous god of change, of art and healing, music and lightning. I find our page, still dog-eared. The tale of Daphne. Dad loved it because of the tree. I want my ghosts. The librarian stares with black, beady eyes, gives me another option, a huge, battering ram book about monsters in movies, tentacled monsters, things from the deep, ghosts and ghouls. I have a Halloween memory, a candle wax drip memory, me and Dad, dressed up as a huge, creepy Cthulhu, Lovecraft's tentacle god. I was up on his shoulders, he was covered in stuffed stockings. It's like the librarian reads my thoughts. I throw him a tiny smile, take the book, and head to my corner. The archaeology of words. The glass display case holds me, brimming with the library's archaeology, children of its foundations. Bogwood seeping dark, skulls prehistoric, fanged and huge, wolf skulls and hippo teeth, sloths the size of bears, things that lived here when trees dreamed of inked leaves. Incredible how all those animals and the enormity of trees, the unfathomableness of years could be stuffed behind glass. Agnes shuffles past me. She's always here, always chatting, always smiling. The case hasn't caught her yet. You being good, Daphne? She asks, her face all silver birch. And before I can answer, she peels. It's hard, ain't it? It's hard to be good. I hand her a small smile and wonder what part of this moment will survive, whether words and kind deeds leave traces in the soil. I've got to show you this illustration here by Kate Milner, who did all the illustrations in this book. And that particular poem was inspired by my time working in a library where we did have display cases of local history. And when I'm in libraries, I often notice that there are display cases of local history and of archaeology. So I wanted to kind of honour that. But the character, Agnes, in that poem, is based on a character I met on my Saturday job in my local library, who actually said those words to me. She said, "Are you being good?" one Saturday morning. And before I had time to answer, she said, "It's hard, ain't it? It's hard to be good." And those words always stuck with me. This next poem, Daphne and her father Paneas, is my take on the original Greek myth of Daphne. There's several poems that retell that story throughout the book, which Kate has done on black paper here. Daphne and her father Paneas. "You are growing older," said Paneas to his daughter. "Soon you'll run your course without the comfort of my waters." "I'll always meander near," said Daphne to her father. "I'll deluge the course you carve, my cascade will never falter. Just as my current winds from tiny trickle to the sea, you too must flow, my love, run your course without me. I'll never grow, oh daddy-o. Our course will never change. Daughter runs with father forever. Mirrored waters must stay the same. So Daphne starts off in the library and then finds herself in this deep, dark forest where there is a creature called Hock, a bent, foul creature who is conspiring to keep her there and to change her, to transform her into a tree. This is her first meeting with the creature Hock. It's called All the Things in Books. What is a girl doing here? What is a girl doing here in this forest? What is a girl doing here in this dark forest? What is a girl doing here in this dark forest where there are monstrous things, ancient things? What is a girl doing here in this dark forest where there are monstrous things, ancient things that want you? What is a girl doing here in this dark forest where there are monstrous things, ancient things that want to keep you here? What kind of things? All the things you have read of in books. So Daphne finds herself at the mercy of Hock, and at one point is left waiting, not knowing what to do. She's searching for her phone, which Hock has stolen from her, which contains something very special to her, without giving too much away. This poem is called Waiting, and it's a villanelle, which is a form of poem which uses a repeating structure. I'm told to wait, and wait I will. I'm pacing this old forest, waiting for spring. This tree's slow patience takes deathly skill. I'm a bramble of fidgets, a girl-shaped ant-hill, my hopes tied with matted fur string. I'm told to wait, and wait I will. My eyes search the canopy, taking their fill. My dreams of expectations ring. This tree's slow patience takes deathly skill. I want to act, shout and scream. I want to overspill, to show the twisting vines. I am action's offspring, but I'm told to wait, and wait I will. I'm feeding hours into time's sawmill. Doubt unfurls, distrust becomes a sapling. This tree's slow patience takes deathly skill. My fidgets are blooming, I won't sit still. I must choose my own song to sing. For now I'm told to wait, and wait I will. Tree slow patience takes deathly skill. In this deep, dark forest, Daphne isn't alone. She does find a friend, a tree monster. This poem is called Friendship Grows. We were blown together, windfalls of destiny. Our friendship was all thundertooth and backslap. The playtime banter of our autumn made twins of us. We grew in the dirt. Understood the mold on our souls, connected and fed, never made crucifixes of our branches. We grew together, found ways to entwine, to protect and support, to rustle laughter out of storms. The tinkle of shared tears watered at the root, turned us orchard, made us forest, kept the lumberjack at bay. In this way, we grew together. So that's a quick kind of selection of poems from The Girl Who Became a Tree. And to finish up, I'd like to leave you with two very short poems from Poems Aloud. These two poems have been designed to be whispered. So I'd like to invite you all in to go quite close to your speakers. I'm going to whisper this poem. I want you to close your eyes. So lean in, close your eyes, and get ready for a scare. Don't look now. Don't look now. Don't move. Don't breathe. There's something behind you, unlike anything I've seen. It's looking right at you, eyes hollow as night. It's pointing its long fingers. Its mouth wants to bite. It's moving its grey lips so horribly slow. The words it is saying are whispered and low. Don't look now. It's incredibly near. Don't move a hair's width. It's whispering in your ear. So if you're not too scared, I leave you with something to take away any fear. This poem is called Tickle Breath. My breath in your ear may delight and tickle, may make you squirm and laugh and wiggle as I get uncomfortably near. But I have something lovely to say, a little thought to brighten your day. Your smile makes everyone cheer. Thank you so much.
Round of applause. Thank you, Joseph. That was really wonderful. I could listen to that all night. So lovely way to end this webinar. I want to say thank you to all of this evening's panel. You've been fantastic and the conversation has been fascinating. And I'm sure it will carry on in staff rooms across the nation tomorrow and for the rest of the week. And to our audience, thank you for joining us. Please do share the news of the Teachers Reading Challenge to your networks. If you haven't signed up and joined yet, please do. It's teachersreadingchallenge.org.uk. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at Reading Agency. You can also find the OU's Reading for Pleasure Facebook and Twitter at openuni_RFP. And you can join the RFP newsletter. Please do. It is fab. It's fantastic. So make sure you head there right now. If you've not already got the newsletter, if you not already signed up, not already on the mailing list, head there now. And it's at researchrichpedagogies.org. And to end, I wondered whether the panel would actually just give us one sentence or just a few kind of lines as a bit of a main takeaway. What would you like the audience to take away if it's just one thing from tonight's webinar? Teresa, would you like to start?
Yep, it was my last point, never made it, forgot to say it, so I should say it now.
Brilliant.
I do think it is actually a professional, social, moral responsibility for all of us as teachers to read children's literature and children's other texts, comics, magazines, graphic novels, non-fiction, poetry, you name it, so that we're in a position to share the passion. And even if we don't have a passion for that text, to know that that text might light somebody else's fire or open the door for another child we've not yet met. So we have a responsibility to do it. It isn't an optional extra. It isn't the fluffy bunnies. It's absolutely at the core of social justice and of education itself. That's my takeaway.
Brilliant. Thank you, Teresa. That's really great. Very powerful. Joe, how about you?
Just to remember that the joy and the pleasure of words is key. As Teresa was saying about choice, about children having choice over what they read, the more that we can show them, because there's no secret, is it? It is a pleasure, it is a joy. So the more that we can show them the joy of the written word, the easier it is to get them reading. I think performance is a great way in, not the only way in, but a wonderful way to explore text in that way.
Brilliant, thanks, Joe. And Matt?
Even in these difficult times, and perhaps because even more so in these difficult times, keep reading for pleasure at the forefront of what we do as teachers and as educators, and keep that agenda ticking along as we go through it together. Yeah,
in it together, Matt. Very well said. And Sonia, how about you? What's your takeaway that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Sonia, you're on mute. I can just see that red thing.
We talk a lot about powerful knowledge. Michael Young talks about powerful knowledge, the knowledge that teachers give pupils within the school setting. And I think if there's one package of knowledge that we should be empowering children with, it's that understanding that they have agency over what they read, to build their confidence, their empathy, their attainment through the pleasure of reading books. And I think if that's one thing that we can give to every child, then we've done our work as teachers and practitioners.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sonia. So thanks again to the panel. And just to say again that we will be sending an email later on this week with the survey. So please, if you've enjoyed this evening, or if you haven't, let us know so that we can build on and develop for next time. And that email will also have the link to the recording of this. So I know that there's been some fantastic books that have been recommended, authors, so do listen back, but also we will see whether we can capture some of that and put that on the email as well to help everyone out. So thank you, stay safe, and have a good night from all of us.
And do we wave?
We can wave.
That's a bit strange.